Breaking! Westminster is burning tonight. And the man holding the match? Britain's own Prime Minister. 3 hours ago, Keir Starmer made an announcement so reckless, so politically suicidal, that even his own cabinet is reportedly scrambling for the exits. We're talking about a £22 billion black hole that's morphed from embarrassing scandal into full-blown criminal investigation. And the timing? Suspicious doesn't even begin to cover it. The announcement came at 6 p.m. tonight, delivered with the kind of forced confidence that only makes the desperation more obvious. Starmer stood at the podium, cameras rolling, and tried to sell the British public on pushing forward with election plans while his government collapses around him. If you want the truth behind the headlines, hit subscribe now. This story is moving fast, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Here's what we know. The National Audit Office, working with independent financial watchdogs, has launched a criminal investigation into the missing £22 billion from Labour's budget. This isn't political theatre anymore. This is forensic accountants tracing money that was supposed to fund schools, hospitals and infrastructure. Money that simply vanished. Let that sink in for a moment. £22 billion. That's not a rounding error. That's not creative accounting. That's an amount of money so staggering that it could fund the entire NHS for nearly 2 months. It could build 440,000 affordable homes. It could hire 733,000 teachers for a year. And nobody can explain where it went. And Starmer's response? Push forward with election plans. Call it bold. Call it desperate. But here's what it really is. A man trying to outrun a scandal that's gaining speed by the hour. Sources inside Whitehall are saying investigators have uncovered financial irregularities so severe they had no choice but to escalate to criminal authorities. Contracts awarded to questionable companies, oversight mechanisms ignored or bypassed, billions in public funds unaccounted for. One senior civil servant, speaking anonymously, described the findings as the most serious breach of financial governance in modern British political history. The British taxpayer deserves answers. Instead, they're getting deflection. Within minutes of Starmer's announcement, social media exploded. Starmer resign hit the top of trending topics, not with hundreds of posts, with hundreds of thousands. By 7 p.m, it had been mentioned over 300,000 times. By 9 p.m, that number had doubled. Protests outside Downing Street doubled in size within the hour. What started as a few dozen demonstrators swelled to over 1,000. Union leaders who once stood shoulder to shoulder with Labour are now calling emergency meetings to discuss withdrawing support. Unite, Britain's largest union, released a statement saying they are deeply concerned and demanding full transparency immediately. Inside the Labour Party, it's open warfare. Senior MPs are giving anonymous interviews describing the mood as panic mixed with fury. One shadow cabinet member told reporters Starmer has lost the confidence of the parliamentary party. Another called it a betrayal. A third, someone who's been with Starmer since his leadership campaign, said simply, "This is over, he just doesn't know it yet." Emergency meetings are happening right now. Behind closed doors, backbenchers are counting votes for a potential vote of no confidence. The arithmetic is brutal. A significant portion of the party believes keeping Starmer guarantees defeat, while replacing him offers at least a slim chance of survival. The coalition that brought Starmer to power is fracturing in real time, and the cracks are widening by the hour. But this isn't just about one scandal or one leader. This is about a pattern. Starmer campaigned on restoring integrity to British politics. He promised transparency. He promised accountability. He looked the British people in the eye and said his government would be different. Remember his speech from 2 years ago? "We will be the most transparent government in British history. No more secrets, no more cover-ups. The days of politicians playing by different rules are over." Those promises ring hollow now. They sound like cruel jokes. Voters who gave Labour a chance now feel deceived. Working families struggling with rising bills and stagnant wages look at this government and see politicians who couldn't manage a budget while lecturing everyone else about responsibility. The disconnect is total, the betrayal is complete. Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives have reframed the entire election. This is no longer about policy differences. This is now a referendum on trust. Every Conservative campaign event hammers the same message. Labour lied about the economy, Labour hid a £22 billion disaster, and Labour cannot be trusted with your future. It's a devastating line of attack, made more powerful because it's grounded in facts. Sunak's team has prepared attack ads that simply show Starmer's promises side by side with the scandal headlines. No commentary needed. The hypocrisy speaks for itself. Reform UK is piling on too. Nigel Farage is calling this the biggest betrayal of taxpayers in living memory. positioning Reform as the only party untainted by Westminster corruption. Their poll numbers are surging, pulling support directly from Labour in working-class constituencies that were supposed to be Starmer's stronghold. In some northern constituencies, Reform has jumped from 8% to 23% in just 2 weeks. Now about that criminal investigation. This is where things get serious. The National Audit Office doesn't refer cases to criminal investigators over accounting errors or bureaucratic mishaps. This happens when there's credible evidence that laws may have been broken, that public funds may have been stolen or misused, and that individuals may have personally enriched themselves at taxpayer expense. Forensic accountants are reportedly tracing billions through government departments, contracts, and spending programs. What they're finding is deeply disturbing. Massive sums allocated to projects that never materialised. Contracts worth hundreds of millions awarded to companies with questionable credentials and even more questionable connections. In some cases, companies that didn't even exist before receiving government contracts. One example that's emerged: a £340 million contract for infrastructure consulting, awarded to a firm that was incorporated just 3 months before winning the bid. The company's registered address: a serviced office in Mayfair. Its staff? On paper, just 2 people. Where did that £340 million go? Nobody can say. Senior members of Starmer's cabinet are reportedly under scrutiny. Ministers who defended these policies on television, who promised the British public that Labour could be trusted with the nation's finances, are now facing questions about their own involvement. Some have already begun distancing themselves, skipping public appearances, dodging journalist questions, suddenly finding reasons to be unavailable for comment. The signs are unmistakable. These are politicians preparing for the worst. The polls tell a brutal story. Starmer's approval ratings have cratered to historic lows, lower than Boris Johnson during Partygate, lower than Liz Truss during the economic crisis, lower than any Prime Minister since polling began in 1945. He's become a political liability of unprecedented proportions. Recent polling shows a majority of British voters, 57%, believe Starmer should resign before the election even takes place. Internal Labour polling, the numbers they don't share publicly, paints an even more devastating picture. Labour support has collapsed in key battleground constituencies. Voters who were solidly behind the party just months ago are now saying they'll stay home, switch to the Conservatives, or back Reform UK. In focus groups conducted this week, the reaction to Starmer was visceral. One voter in Birmingham said, "I voted for him because I thought he was different. Turns out he's just another liar in a suit." Another in Manchester, "Where's my £22 billion? Because I know where it's not, in my kids' schools or my local hospital." The £22 billion scandal has become a symbol of everything people distrust about politicians. The broken promises, the hidden agendas, the sense that those in power play by different rules. And Keir Starmer has become the face of that distrust. So here's where we are. Labour is paralysed between 2 terrible options: keep Starmer and face near-certain electoral disaster, or replace him mid-campaign and signal chaos. Behind closed doors, senior figures are arguing both sides. Some, like Deputy Leader Angela Rayner, are reportedly arguing that replacing him now is the only way to salvage the election. Others, including Starmer's closest allies, warn that changing leaders this late would guarantee defeat and make Labour look even more dysfunctional. But everyone agrees the current path is unsustainable. The criminal investigation is accelerating. Sources say investigators are now looking at phone records, emails, and financial transactions. New revelations could drop at any moment. Starmer's grip on power is slipping by the hour. His legacy, once imagined as the leader who restored Labour to power, is being written in real time as something far darker. The man who lectured others about ethics is now at the centre of a criminal investigation. The man who demanded accountability from his opponents refuses to provide any himself. The man who promised to clean up Westminster may end up as its biggest stain. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. The fall is catastrophic. Britain stands at a crossroads. The choices made in the coming days will shape the nation's political landscape for years, possibly decades. Will Labour sacrifice its leader to save itself, or will it follow him into oblivion? Will the truth about the missing billions finally emerge? And who will pay the price when it does? Will arrests be made? Will ministers resign? Will this scandal consume an entire generation of Labour politicians? These questions don't have easy answers. But one thing is certain. Keir Starmer's desperate gamble has failed spectacularly. His announcement, meant to project strength, has only exposed weakness. His attempt to control the narrative has only fueled the chaos. His refusal to face reality has only accelerated his own destruction. The coming days will be brutal. More revelations will emerge. More allies will abandon ship. More voters will turn away. The investigation will continue to dig, to uncover, to expose. Starmer wanted to be remembered as the man who saved the Labour Party. Instead, he may go down in history as the man who destroyed it. The reckoning has arrived, and there's nowhere left to hide. What do you think happens next? Will Starmer survive the week? Will arrests be made? Will Labour force him out before Election Day? Drop your prediction in the comments right now. I'm reading every single one, and I'll pin the most accurate. And if you want real-time updates when this scandal explodes even further, and trust me it will, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming. This story is far from over. In fact, it's just getting started.